What's up, folks? Welcome back to another edition of SHU Outdoors. Just had to go and pick my truck up. Cost me about $1,000. Had to get catalytic converter, exhaust fixed, points. Well, not the points, but the spark plugs, oil change, transmission change, fluid, and just a generalized tune-up. I had to get 2 new tires put on the front. So the BS don't never stop. But I tell you what, I am grateful to be a free man and have the opportunity to deal with all the trials and tribulations that a regular life has to throw at a guy. I know one thing, my truck is running 100% better. It was worth the money, for sure. Not that I wanted to spend $1,000, but in retrospect, I mean, it was 100% worth it because I'm always out willing and dealing and grinding. And that's another thing, I did 25 plus years in prison. And once I got out, I never fell into this victimhood mentality that a lot of people fall into because they're ex-cons. And even though they're not criminals anymore, they can still see themselves as a victim. I never really saw myself like that. When I got out of prison, as from the date I got out, approximately 5 years ago, I was still on probation at that time. But, and then they sent me back to prison for consuming medical marijuana under a doctor's prescription. I don't even think they could do that anymore, but they did it about 2 years ago, made me do 10 months. And then deaded all my paper, terminated my probation, because a federal judge can start your probation over again from ground zero. So that right there told you I'm not a danger to society. I'm not a danger to the public. Otherwise, they would have never terminated my probation. They would have sent me back to jail and started my probation over again. Literally, I was doing better than I had ever did in my entire life. But I guess that's another story. But I tell you what, when I got out of prison, I've never accepted a penny of food stamps. I've never accepted a penny of welfare. No government subsidies of any kind, period. And, I'm real proud of that. Now, a lot of people may not realize I got out of federal prison after doing 9 plus years. They sent me back to one of the most liberal cities in the country, New York City. So I could have totally played the system. I could be getting an SSI check right now. I could be getting Section 8 for an apartment. I could be getting food stamps, welfare. Really just drain the system for everything that I could get. I've never taken 1 penny, not 1 penny from the system, with the exception of maybe a couple of Metro cards, which allow you to get on the train one time there and one time back when I was first released and I was in the halfway house just trying to get around to the city and make some basic appointments that I was required to make. But other than that, I haven't taken a penny. I rebuilt my life, man, from ground zero, okay? Getting out literally with nothing. And I own this truck. I'm not making payments on it. That's the reason why I had to pay the $1,000 out of pocket. There is no warranty, okay? And I own my home outright. Now, a lot of people may say, well, it's not a big old huge mansion, so it don't really count. And you know what I say to those people? You need to check up from the neck up, because you know how much money I owe the bank? Zero, okay? I don't owe nobody nothing. I got it from hard work and saving up my money and buying everything one piece at a time, doing all the labor, putting it together myself, and you can do the same thing. The reason why this country is in such a state that it's in, everybody bought into this idea that we live in a disposable society, and you don't really need no real skills. Just go to college and major in some, whatever major, and you can't get a job. And if you can't get a job, it's not enough money to pay your rent and your food and whatnot. See, one thing that I did get out of doing 25 years, 14 plus years in the New York State system, 3 years in the South Carolina Department of Youth Services, and another 10 years in the federal penitentiary level. I mean, I don't know. If you count all that, it's probably 28, 29 years. Who knows? But one thing I got out of that is I don't trust the government. The government is not my friend, and it's not your friend neither. If you think about it in its most proper context, the government passes laws and rules and regulations of all kinds that you're obligated to live by. And you never even had a chance to either agree or disagree with it. Some alleged representative who's getting all kind of kickbacks from lobbyists voted on a bill, and now it's the law of the land. So the government, if you think about it in its most proper context, it's not designed to help you. This road that I'm riding on right now, my forefathers already fought many wars to secure my right to ride down this road, okay? So I learned early on, I don't trust the government. I don't buy into half the crap they sell. I'm not interested. I'm not buying. What I did learn to do is be self-reliant. What I did learn to do is count on myself and my immediate circle. That's the reason why I'm so particular about who I invite into my circle. Because I don't want no lame in my inner circle that could cause any kind of chaos or mayhem. I don't need to listen to what some political politicians said. I know most of them are bought and paid for, okay? And unfortunately, that's just the system that we live in. It's just like they say we just can't afford national health care. Are you kidding me? Of course we could afford it if we wasn't giving away trillions and billions and zillions and all this money away all over the world that looks like in the long run it ain't really going to pay off anyway. Because it's hard to compete with a nation like China that says, hey, I don't care what you do in your country. You got grain. I want to buy your grain. I'm willing to build a port and come and get all your grain. I'm not saying that China's 100% right about everything. What I am saying, the system that we live under is at the point where it's going to be breaking. Now, in a way that's going to be good for me because, see, when you have to sell that piece of land that you got for an investment property that you was never ever planning on living on, I'll be able to pick that up for next to nothing because you're going to be desperate to keep your condo in Miami and New York and your Maserati and so on. So really it's going to play out my benefit in the long run. But I have a policy. If I don't have the money to buy it, that means I can't afford it. Now, I understand sometimes a single mother or you really need a vehicle and to keep your job. So I understand why certain people may have to go in debt because that's the world they live in. Me, myself, I don't live in that world, okay? My truck runs like a top. That's the reason why I didn't got no problem going investing the money in it to make sure it continues to run like a top. But if I don't have the cash money to buy it, that means I can't afford it. So what I do is, another thing I realized is I need to accumulate all the skills I can accumulate. Mechanical skills. Somebody was calling me. It wasn't somebody I wanted to talk to, I know that. Mechanical skills, carpentry skills. See, I did all that time in prison, man, but I never allowed myself to become a product of the prison. You have to adapt to a degree in order to survive, and I survived very well. But I never allowed myself to say, hey, this is my world, I'm going to get my whole face tattooed to represent some gang or whatever. That was never my reality. My reality is, I'm here, this ain't my world, I'm going to figure out a way not only to survive, but to thrive and make money the whole time I'm in here. Okay, that was my goal. I seen too many people come to jail, get in a gang, and start gang banging, end up catching a new sentence, and they don't even know the rules and regulations of their own gang. They don't even know the Constitution. I've talked to several people like that. They're gang banging for a gang. They don't even know what the bylaws are, the Constitution. And their alleged bros just throw them under the bus as soon as look at them because really and truly, they're not useful for anything but being a torpedo. And for you guys who don't know, a torpedo is just somebody you send on a mission and they were totally disposable from day one. All right? That's what a torpedo is. So, I never went down that path, even though I had to get busy a number of times, but I did it for my own reasons, to defend my own life, okay? To defend my own livelihood, not to defend some kind of gang or something. I never went down the path of becoming an extremist, all right? I can be extreme in certain regards when it comes to my interest and what I got going on. But I'm not going to be an extremist for your cause. But your cause doesn't really mean nothing to me if it's not in line with my cause, which is number one, getting out of jail as soon as possible, and number two, let's make as much money as we can. Let's educate ourselves as much as we can. That way, when we get out of prison, we got the funds necessary to build a future, and we got the education enough to not only navigate anything that comes our way, to be able to get out ahead of things, understand what we're looking at. I was watching a thing by Tommy G, and the reference was the U.S.'s most dangerous prison, and they were down in Georgia. And I can say this, they're talking about the Bloods gang and this and that and next thing. Well, yeah, they could be very dangerous, right? But they're one of the most unorganized organizations you ever come across. I was in MCC Brooklyn with them. They're all fighting each other. One said it's called the Maseratis. The other said it's called the Lamborghinis. I mean, they're just ridiculous in their approach. There's no structure. You know what I mean? And, if you're going to be in there doing something, have a reason why you're doing it. Not just for the sake of violence itself. Okay? Any 12-year-old could commit a violent act. How is it better than you and your organization? It's not. And, that's just my take on the whole thing. Yeah, it is probably a very dangerous system because it's full of imbeciles who don't understand by helping to keep the peace to a degree, you can make a whole lot more money. All right? And there's probably a lot of reasons for that. The reason why they run it the way they run it down there. All right? One, they don't want to put any money in the prison system. So you're paying your officers $20 an hour with some benefits, and you can't understand why they're corrupt. It should be obvious to a duck. A guy's wearing a badge and can't afford to pay his rent. And he says, hey, I can smuggle in a pouch of tobacco and make $200 or $300 real quick. That was one of the most dumbest things these states did, was outlaw tobacco. Because all you think you did was open up a avenue for corruption. If a guy can even have a dip, let's say you don't want to bring back smoking tobacco, you can bring back these spitless pouches. Because you're not stopping people from smoking. What you did was you opened up a door for mass corruption. So a lot of these things these states does, especially Georgia, and they're not the only one, they put these policies in place without actually thinking them out clearly. All right? And what it does is it opens up all kind of doors for corruption and so on. And, if I was from Georgia, I would be pretty concerned, because all those people running around with those shanks and doing all that stuff, they're going to be released right back out to your communities. So you're doing everything you can do to ensure that they come out crazy and violent. But see, here's the thing. That's the game. Because the average citizen isn't thinking about the cause. They're just thinking about the effect. So when you get these people out and they go and do something crazy because the state's basically done made them into animals. If they were animals when they went in there, there's a good chance they'll be animals when they get out, living like that. Then they'll go out and commit some crime, and the state can say, see, if we'd just had harder laws, we could have kept them in there longer. You see, and that makes money. That's a making operation. If you rehabilitate people, and you make it to where they don't commit any more crimes when they're released, well then all your correctional officers unions, all your people who fund prisons and so on and so forth, hey, they're making bank from the metal detector companies who provide all the metal detectors for them. All these people, They're all making bank. There's no money to be made rehabilitating people and releasing them back into society. There's a whole lot of money to be made by ensuring that they're angry, borderline crazy when they get released. And that way, they'll go out and commit another crime, and you can get them again and keep making money and money and money. And the gangs, especially like the gangs obviously they have in Georgia and a lot of other states too, they don't see that because they're not real leaders. They see, okay, let's make some money right now today. We don't care about what happens tomorrow. And that's all that matters. I've seen this happen, and that's the main reason why I never joined any kind of gang in prison, because I've seen too many instances where the guy who is the most violent but couldn't think his way out of a wet paper bag becomes the de facto leader, all right? And this guy's calling shots for not only for himself, but for everybody in the gang. And again, the guy's dumb as a rock. Oh, well, we got to make him our leader because we like his style and he's been to the hole. He did this, he did that. But what has he did to better his situation? Now, I understand sometimes in prison, unfortunately, violence could be necessary to protect yourself, just like out here in the street. Anybody who thinks otherwise, you're just selling yourself a dream. But you know that the system does not give a crap about you. And it seems to me that you're doing everything you can do to convince the system that they need to put more restrictive measures in place, take away more privileges, pass more harsh laws. If you're a leader of an organization, your main number one priority is to make sure that everybody in that organization becomes a better person. But that's not the way it works in the real world, okay? The real world, most people are thinking about right now, today, what's going on right now, today. They're not thinking about tomorrow or next week. I'm in front of my house right now, man. I own everything. I own the house. I own the truck. I own all the property. I own everything. I built it in 5 years. Now, you can say to yourself, that's a guy that I should actually be listening to. Okay, not a guy that lives in an apartment and doesn't own his vehicle or doesn't own anything and is trying to tell you how you can become a better person. All right. I did it. I'm not on any food stamps, no welfare, no nothing. I've never made a penny off of YouTube. And, you know, that reflects a lot. That's what's going on in our culture. People want to be entertained. They're not necessarily worried about the truth, how you actually do things. You know, I could just about build anything. I know all kind of mechanics. I can get all kind of things done because I network and I learned how to use all the skills that I picked up in prison, how to talk to people, how to size people up, how to get you to tell me what your intentions are without me ever asking you. Just throwing a random question out there and to see how you respond to it. Most people will respond because most people think their opinions really matter. All right. But not knowing you're dealing with a guy like me that I've already done thought 5 or 6 moves ahead. Any which answer you give me, I'm going to figure out where you fit in this overall, plan that I got. And either, you're going to fit in or you're not going to fit in. So I took all that prison know-how and applied it to my life after released. That's why I'm the ultimate success story. I got over 100 videos on YouTube and I'm not monetized yet because I don't have enough view hours. I got plenty enough subscribers, don't have enough view hours, all right? I'm about maybe 300 or 400 hours short. But, people flock to these other channels where, do I really need to tell you that prison can be a violent place? Do I really need to tell you how noisy prison is? Do I really need to tell you that, you're going to have to use the bathroom with somebody else in the cell? I could talk about all those type of things, but none of those things are helping you get yourself together, all right? I'm in the middle of doing a Rikers Island series right now, which I will do, but I just thought it was important to put this video out today, man. And, you know, the government is not here to help. That's the bottom line. They're not here to help. They're here to impose rules, regulations, and all kind of other problems for you. So I don't need the government. Yeah, I'm thankful for hospitals and roads and schools and infrastructure, but the government didn't even build most of that. Most of that was built by private enterprise. So, I don't know. I ain't saying I got all the answers. Got a whole lot of questions and a number of answers. I mean, I'm a living example. You could do it, man. You can get out of prison and start your whole life over. And the only thing I hold on from the past is the life lessons that I learned and the experience that I have. I don't dwell in all the misery. I mean, I could tell you all kind of stories about how I had to assault people, how I had to defend myself, what it was like in the hole. And I could tell you those stories if you're interested. Hit me up in the comments, man. But I choose to focus on things that actually matter, not dwelling in some ridiculous past that is gone and can never be recovered. I just celebrated I recently celebrated my 57th birthday, man. I'm as strong as a fucking mule, all right? I'm 280 pounds, solid as a rock, all kind of physical activity. Literally, man, I feel like I'm 25 or 30 years old. They say prison preserves you, and maybe that's the case. I could pretty much work alongside 25, 30 years old and never lose pace. Like I said, man, this is the channel you need to be listening to if you're just out of prison and you want to know how to go about rebuilding your life. Well, there's two paths you could take. The path of dependency. I got friends in New York I don't even talk to no more because every time I talk to them, their whole conversation revolves around their next food stamps, when that's going to touch down, their next XSI check. And like, you live in New York City, man. There is so many opportunities here. I mean, if other people can become a multi-thousandaire or a millionaire here in the city, why can't you do it? But their whole life has come down to being dependent. I don't want to be dependent on anybody. I want to be a free man, able to make my own decisions, live my own life. And the best way to do that is not take a penny from nobody. That's just the way I live my life, man. I'm a straight up dude, straight shooter, been through hell. Now I'm here. And if you want to learn how to get from there to here, you can listen to a channel that just talks about being there constantly and stories and so on. Or you can listen to a young G like me, all right, who's been there, who came through it, who's strong as an ox, disease-free, debt-free. I own my own home. I own all the outbuildings. I own my truck. My wife owns her car, from steady grinding and living way below our pay scale. That's the way I was able to go get two new tires, drop a G on my truck. And yeah, I'm not happy about it. I had to spend $1,000, but I was in a position to do that because of the way I live my life. I'm a prepper. My pantries are full. So nobody can tell me it can't be done because I know it can be done. The question is, how bad do you want freedom? How bad do you want independence? Once you answer that question, then you'll be able to answer any other questions you may have regarding the topic. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this, get it in the wind, let it fly. Stay up. Peace.